The Fujicast is an independent Loading Zone production.
But days now left to claim 10% off all workshops and mentoring and portfolio reviews and presets when you visit kevinmullinsworkshops.co.uk. All you have to do is use the word Fujicast upon checkout and you can receive 10% off the workshops, the mentoring, the portfolio reviews, the presets on kevinmullinsworkshops.co.uk. Offer ends in a few days, 31st of July. So, Kev, Sam still can't get over the fact that you let the chickens go. She,
well, they never came, which is good.
Well, I know, but how did you actually break that to Gemma? That you had a chicken coop. I saw it come in. It was during lockdown, wasn't it? It came past you, came behind you.
Yep.
And then you haven't got it anymore.
They snuck it in when I was on recording a podcast show. Yeah. And I basically said, no, it's not going to happen. And
but
as
usually
soon as you started talking
your...
about mites up your bums and things like that, chicken mites up your bum, that was it. That was definitely it.
Chicken mites up your bum.
Don't be rude.
I mean, no, Donald, I can't believe he said that. You have to be careful of those chicken mites, though, because they get everywhere.
The Fujicast.
Yes, welcome to a brand new week. You and your questions from our electronic mailbag. Real mixed bag, as I always say. Tech, non-tech. And actually today somebody seems to have found a hotline to the studio. All will become clear in a short while. If you've emailed before, fantastic, you are officially what we know as a friend of the show. If you've never emailed before, now is the time to earn your first time writer badge. Welcome aboard those who don't shoot Fuji. You're very welcome here. We'll also have club indulgence where the drinks are free unless you're throwing down spirits and you can pay for yourself. And thank you, by the way, to those that have shared the show. It really does help. If you're in a Facebook group and you share within that, then that always helps. People get to hear about the show that way. And of course, Twitter is another way that you can share. Sharing is caring, isn't it, Kev? Sharing is caring.
If this was Joe Rogan asking, he'd say, "Share the shit out of the show."
He would, mother. And he'd get away with it, and he'd get $100 million for the.
and then he'd say, "You know that coffee I was talking about last week? It's no longer my favourite. My new favourite coffee is Java beans from Joe."
That's it. And I know $35,000 for the privilege. Thank you very much. Yeah, he does start with 7 minutes sometimes of advertising, doesn't he?
Mind you,
incredible.
He probably gets paid more per minute than footballers do.
Do you think he does?
Oh, I don't know.
100. Did I say 1 million just now? 100 million. I mean 100 million.
That was his contract with Spotify, but that doesn't include his adverts. that he gets on top.
So he's having to move off the YouTube platform as well, isn't he? Because a lot of stuff appears on YouTube. I might be wrong there, but I had a feeling that that some sort of visual element was.
Don't know. And of course, he's a TV presenter as well, isn't he? So I'm guessing that
and a comedian.
It's all that's what I mean.
He does everything.
Yeah, hate him.
Already we hate you.
Yeah.
Actually, I do love his shows. It's just the thing about Joe is
I think he talks about us like this.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly. I must have missed the episode where he did it though. Is that his knowledge? It's every man knowledge.
Yeah.
Every woman knowledge. Sorry, every gender neutral knowledge. But I know you'll be so careful these days, obviously, for very good reasons. But he just knows about stuff, but on a level where you feel like I'm not being, because some of the guests he has on talk about the most extraordinary sort of scientific things. But he kind of like engages with them in a way where you think, well, Joe knows about this.
Yeah, no, good. I do like listening to it as well.
Right,
very good.
To the questions, to the Batmobile, to the questions. You go for it.
Okay, this is from Jay Rogan in America, and he says, question for Neil: how can I get my voice to sound so good? Obviously, I'm joking.
Mellifluous.
This is actually from Leighton Isherwood.
Didn't Joe not really write it?
No, Leighton Isherwood.
Isherwood. Oh, one of my best friends was called Isherwood many years ago.
Isherwood.
It's
quite a cool name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isherwood. Never. I don't think I've ever heard that surname before.
Never heard of an Isherwood?
Isherwood. I-S-H-E-R Wood.
We've got quite a few. We've got Isherwood and Sons down the road. Dump Road from here as well.
Leighton Isherwood. Hello, chaps. Lockdown may have ended, but I'm still getting plenty of requests for me to work for free. I gave a lot of my time to people during lockdown with advice, workshops for new photographers, and even editing. but it seems that people still feel like they're still in those times. How do you start to put people down gently and bring them round again to paying? Pass it forward can only last so long. Leighton. That's interesting.
Well, pass it forward, really, and people offering their services was seen very much as a way of marketing yourself, which would be good for you when we came out of lockdown, because you were sharing your services. And of course, the feeling was that people would then say, that Leighton's a really nice person. I want to use them to now photograph my next campaign, or whatever whatever the purpose was. Yeah. But for some people, it sounded like it never really ended.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we're still on the cusp of exiting lockdown, I guess. Could go either way still. We might end up being back in. Who knows? But hopefully not. I guess you just have to call it. And, ultimately, I mean, I've done plenty of webinars and things over the lockdown. I've done countless. I can't even count how many, like way more than the fingers on my toes. Right. And some of those paid, some of them didn't. Some of the ones for Fujifilm, for example, they paid me. I did some.
I'm still trying to get around the fingers on your toes. I didn't know you were from Norfolk.
You can get in a lot of trouble for that. And
my auntie lives in Norfolk. It's all right.
I got.
That's okay.
I got paid for some and not paid for others, and I've done quite a lot of kind of free chats to other photographers and everything. And I'm not sure that when lockdown finishes for good, whether I wouldn't mind still doing bits and pieces like that. The odd chat.
Has it changed your mind then to all that? Because you've always been you've been far more professional. I wanted to use the word commercial, but then that sounds like you're heartless, and I know you're not. But you're far better and more professional at being able to say to people, nope. Time is money. This is what I'm worth, and I find pre-lockdown I find difficulty doing that.
It depends on which context this is happening in later. So if it's friends and things like that you know really well or reasonably well, then typically for me I've just been going, look, let's just we'll jump on, we'll have a beer together and whatever. If it's a business, a corporate, or somebody who's going to be making money out of it, or it's going to a larger audience, then for sure I've been saying, no, you need to pay me. So it's at the end of the day, you've got to make money, so just time to say, no, you need to pay me. Or you could start building a business based on it.
What doing pass it forward?
No, not the pass it forward, but create a product. I mean, I created the product online portfolio reviews, and
you were doing that prior to lockdown, weren't you?
Well, I had them available, but I wasn't selling many of them. And then as soon as lockdown came, I started talking about it more and spreading the word a lot more. And I think I've done 40, 50.
What, over this lockdown period?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm just going to work that out. Goodness.
Warning.
He's a millionaire.
Yeah. But you could make a product out of it,
Wow.
Zoom it up, as they would call it.
Zoom it up?
Zoom it up.
Right, okay.
Although I don't... I'm speaking to a friend next week, actually, another kind of Lightroom thingamajiggy, and he said, what's your web platform of choice, Zoom or Skype? I was like, no, not so. I can't face Zoom anymore. Zoom just reminds me of the deepest, darkest days.
It? Isn't that funny that's for some people will be associated with it? I can't stand quizzes for that reason. And we've
those deep dark days, pub quiz on Friday nights.
And I'm being cautious about this because I am still in a group where really it grew out of the locked in. Yeah. And I'm sure they won't mind me saying grew out of the idea of the quiz concept, and it was fantastic. I loved it.
It was good fun.
But then now I'm kind of like, I associate quizzes with that time. And last week, mother-in-law, who came round because she's officially allowed to come round now, came round and brought her iPad round and said, we're going to have a quiz with Sam's brother-in-law. I thought, no, please, you've come round in person and we're still doing quizzes.
Yeah, Zoom. Ooh, gives me the EBGBs.
Yeah, okay. Right, Ali Stewart Ross appears to have a hotline direct into the studio now, Kev.
I like it.
Yeah, I know. And always Ali always engages with some really good questions, so it's never a problem. And you're going to get 2 for the price of 1 today, Ali. Here we go. Love Monday's podcast. It's always interesting to listen in. But you didn't say what what was particularly good about that one. Anyway, this is not something I'm going to be doing straight away, but I'd like to know what to aim for. I want to start selling large wall art to my clients. 30-inch plus frames.
Whoa.
Yeah, these are huge. Which would be the best Fujifilm camera to cope with the bigger sizes and allow me to crop? Did you notice, by the way, she said Fuji, but I'm now saying Fujifilm because Andreas and Cuneo and people like that. Fujifilm. If you say Fuji, it's got to be Fujifilm.
Get the tap on the shoulder.
I know. I'm feeling that tap. What would be the best Fujifilm camera to cope with the bigger sizes and allow me to crop if I need to? It needs to have a tilt screen. That is a must in brackets. I have an XT3, but I'm not convinced it's got the quality to produce such large images. Thanks, Ali Stewart Ross.
What's 30 inches in feet? 12, that's only about 2.5 feet, isn't it? No, 12, 24.
30 in,
yeah, it's 2.5 feet wide.
4.5 gallons, 5 years and 8 metric. I don't know.
It's about 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
So, well, okay. I've had images printed from an X Pro 1, 5 feet wide.
Was that at that big exhibition in Japan?
Yeah, at CP+.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Now, it's fair to say that went through some professional upsampling company, I would imagine. Fujifilm did it all, obviously. So technically it's possible, but Ali alluded to the fact there that the bigger the sensor, the more you can crop in, and that's kind of critical there. So the ultimate in the Fujifilm world obviously is the GFX 100. You've got your tilting screen there, you've got your vertical viewfinder that you can have sticking up your face, down your face, left your face,
careful,
around your face.
Right.
But you might have to sell part of your anatomy to afford it. Well, you've got GFX 50S, 50R. They're reasonably priced. Well, in fact, they're all excellently priced for what you get, but they're reasonably priced in comparison to the GFX 100. So if you really want to be able to crop in and print at insane quality, then I would be looking at the GFX cameras. However, saying that, 2.5 feet is not that big. 30
yeah, but she did say plus, so I'm not sure when that becomes 60 inches and 70 inches. And
I think you can quite easily print that kind of size from APS-C sensors, the 24, 26 megapixel sensors, as long as it's with a decent printer. And I don't mean printer at home, I mean lab, right. Who can upsample accordingly. Then it should be absolutely fine.
XT4 would be a nice one.
Yeah. Well, the XT4 and the XT3 and the X Pro 3 have all got the same sensor.
Same guts, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So they're all 26 point something.
I'm just trying to give Ali a reason to go out and buy an XT4.
She wants a GFX.
Yes.
GFX.
Yes.
Ali, come on, join the crew.
And a bonus from Ali. I laughed at last week's show when Kev said that if gyms didn't open, how would people get back into the Olympics? Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah, that's a very good point. How are you going to get back into the Olympics, Kev?
I'm entering the beer Olympics.
Okay. I thought you were going to say how many people would get back into their jeans. That's probably more appropriate. I know you and Kev's thoughts about good karma and making it as easy as possible for a couple to cancel due to COVID, because we were talking a lot about this. How do you feel about couples not even admitting to the fact, though, they had wedding insurance? I had one cancel yesterday for a wedding in 3 weeks' time. The groom eventually let it slip during the phone call that they're claiming their wedding insurance, but he definitely didn't mean to tell me that. Ooh. Some couples have reportedly managed to claim successfully. Well, they should be able to claim successfully. After all, that is what wedding insurance is about. But I wonder how many have actually pocketed the payout. Keep up the great work on the show. It's the only podcast that is actually a show. It's more than just a podcast. Thank you for writing a strapline, Ali. But there's a point.
That's a very good point. However, I'm
can of worms open.
What I've been hearing, a vast majority of wedding insurance is not paying out for this. A vast majority, but clearly there has been some. Ali's just pointed one out. So he's got his insurance and he's claiming back from the photographer as well.
Yep. So he's given. Let's put it. Obviously the normal Mullins fee of £7,000 a wedding.
Yeah.
A
picture.
A picture. And he's thought, I'll have that 7k, thanks very much.
And I'll get back off the insurance company as well.
Yeah. What if the insurance company then phoned you and said, Mr. Mullins, that's £7,000.
Yes.
Did you pay it back?
Well, this is it. This is what I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I would imagine that behaviour is against the T's and C's of the insurance company. And, yeah, I'm guessing That's hard, isn't it? Because I
How can you then say that to the client, though?
Well, it's that aside, the saying that to the photographer, actually, we're going to take your money. That's the thing that gets me at this point is like this guy, he's getting his money from the insurance.
Yeah.
Plus, he's then going to take the photographer to the cleaners, who he knows is basically going out of business because we're not suggesting
Ali is.
No, but they're generally weddings are.
Well, Ali's not, because we've already identified she's buying a GFX.
Stuffed.
But that's right. That's
on a
terrible
principle basis.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Low morals.
Yeah. So tell us his name, Ali. Me and Neil will be up there.
Yeah. We'll bring Boca Chicken with us as well. Yes.
No,
He'll deal with him.
I'm going to find him because he's going to hopefully lend me a couple of £100.
That's true. Change that sound effect. Thank you, sir.
But yeah, technically the insurance company, whether there's rights or wrongs with it, it all smells horrible to me.
Doesn't feel right at all.
No,
does it?
I couldn't do that. Although saying that, I mean, I've also heard stories of people who have, kind of had maybe lost a camera bag or something and have pretended that they had a lot more stuff in the bag than was actually there. So
when you write down all your serial numbers, you want to be damn sure that serial number never turns up again anywhere. If you sell that lens on, that serial number may well show up again.
Yeah.
Serial numbers have a funny way of doing the circuit.
Yeah.
And
knock at the door.
Yeah. Mr. Mullins. Right. Okay. Shall we? I tell you what. We'll go for a. Let's go for some reviews here, Kev. We'll go for a club in. We've got time for another question. You got another question? Do another question. Sorry.
All right. Okay. This is from Llewellyn Annadale.
Llewellyn.
Hi, Kevin, Neil. Have either of you seriously used an iPad Pro for editing weddings? I tend to edit individual photos on Lightroom on my iPhone, but I'd be keen to use iPad Pro for editing whole weddings on the couch rather than sitting at my desk. Where are you from? New Zealand. Llewellyn Annadale from New Zealand.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Welsh ancestry somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Maybe he's emigrated. Okay, so have you ever seriously used an iPad Pro for editing weddings?
I'm thinking, Llewellyn, that you sound like you just want to watch Netflix and edit all your work. Am I right, or am I right? I haven't ever used an iPad Pro or anything like a tablet for editing a wedding. I do happily edit on a laptop and then check my colour on a larger monitor when the whole thing's brought back in. But I'm not sure. No, I've never done that. I've never. Yeah, I mean, you effectively do have a sort of tablet and laptop in one, don't you? With your setup.
My Surface Book has the tablet. You can take the screen off and it becomes a tablet.
So have you edited on that a tablet?
I have, but it was never really like as a tablet. It was doable, but never really kind of brilliant. But that was before Adobe updated all of the Lightroom mobile stuff, which is a lot better now. So potentially it could work in those days where we're using kind of like smart previews and syncing across Dropbox and various things like that. So yeah, I mean, try it. I know people do it. My personal thing would be the finer issues, the finer details, workflow, how slow it is. If iPad Pro, the storage space, all that kind of stuff. If it works, great. If it doesn't, blame Neil.
Why blame me?
But yeah, I mean, it's we've got no experience, obviously, clearly, but Lightroom Mobile now is very seamlessly integrated with these devices, so it should be good.
I use Lightroom Mobile for all of my all my little smartphone images.
Yeah,
I love using it. It's a really powerful piece of kit. Yeah. Right, let's do some reviews. Then we've got this week's interview. I'll start, shall I? This is from Ed Danger. Ed Danger. That sounds like something out of a. That's a good. Why are you shaking your head?
Well, everybody's got such cool names.
Oh, I see. Well, funnily enough, he talks about names. The absolute best misnamed photography podcast is the title to this piece. Bravely overcoming their boring names, Kevin and Neil have somehow managed to put together a podcast not at all about X-trans sensors and electronic shutters, although there is a little bit now and then, but instead about photography and even a bit about life and personal integrity. Well, we've certainly done that in this half. Grown up but playful, relaxed but with points of view, shorter guest interviews with access to long format ones that really hit home. Professional production makes a treat to listen to, from Ed Danger, who does indeed have a non-boring name.
Indeed he does. This is from AT0056. And he just says, the best! I cannot...
It sounds like the name of a monitor.
I cannot get enough of... It sounds like a camera, doesn't it?
It does.
I cannot get enough of you guys in the podcast. I have become a Fuji lover 6 months now, and there is no looking back. And to add to this, the podcast, well, I can't say enough. I have listened to all the episodes more than once. You guys are the best. Thank you, AT0056.
Well, this is GT733. It's the number plate kids today. Always look forward to Sunday evening. So obviously you save this up during the week and listen to the weekend after it's been released. My most favourite podcast.
No, it could be in Tonga or Fiji or somewhere.
Oh, sorry. No, because you wouldn't be able to get it early though, would you? Only you would, because if I upload it then it would be hours forward. Oh, yeah. I could never keep up with this.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah,
it could be Sunday night somewhere in the world.
Yeah. Oh, my little brain's failing me now.
You're going to have to ask him to tell us where he's from, though.
Yeah. Oh, no, the United States of America.
Oh.
No. It doesn't work then.
He just waits till Sunday then.
Well, I'm glad we said that. I enjoy the banter of these two buddies. Enjoy hearing the different perspective of the English-based photography world. Why would it work?
Because if he's in the west coast of America and they're 8 hours behind, it uploads at 5 a.m.
Right.
Sunday night would be 10 p.m. Sunday night their time.
I try to listen each Sunday night before I go to sleep, but never make it all the way through.
That's it. West coast of America.
Yes.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be Fiji or Tonga because they'd be Tuesday for them.
I'm going to have to put this in the. I'm entirely confused about where you live.
Sorry, I interrupted so many times. I only got to read one out.
Do you want to read another one?
No.
Oh, okay. Remember, all those that sent in your reviews, thank you wholeheartedly for them. And
you're our favourite listener, and we mean it.
Right. Before we go to our guest this week, we need to remind you of the special competition for Tourbox that we mentioned last week.
Indeed, Tourbox. So if you listened last week, you will know that it's a little device for controlling Lightroom with knobs and buttons and dials and paddles, and it's great, very good.
And it's really small. It doesn't take over the whole of your desk, which is. I did have. I'm not going to say the particular make, but I did have one that was. It was a huge MIDI box. It was unworkable, really, and the size this thing was.
Yeah, well, that's why I like this one particularly well. Anyway, they have very kindly given us one to give to you, or rather, they will send it direct to you, so nothing to do with us, to be honest with you. So,
Kev, we really have to talk about the way that we deal with competitions and sponsors.
You can. I feel a little bit like the middleman, you know.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, it's all good. They are very good. I have one, and it's a very good product.
I still don't.
So you can find out about it more on the website. Only on the website, fujicast.co.uk. Look for Toolbox in the menu item. There is some kind of discount codes that should you wish to win it. Should you wish to purchase it, if you do not win it, we have one to give away, and all you have to do in that page is upload a picture that defines your exiting from the lockdown. And one picture only, please, so we will need to capture email addresses with that. Your data will not be used for anything else. Please do not call after hours, or please,
or turn up at Kev's
entries
house.
are not accepted on postcard. And you can do anything else you want with it. We will not sell your data or delete it or eat it.
But if you want to send me it on a £10 note, I'd gratefully accept it.
That's perfectly fine.
Do you know? I'm just thinking when you're talking about what defines your exit from lockdown. Nobody's used this in the press, and they undoubtedly at some stage when the vaccines become available will call it Lexit.
Lexit.
Well, like Brexit, Brexit exiting. Lexit, as in exiting lockdown. Lexit. No,
I just.
There's a reason I never got to work in an agency.
I never want to hear about it ever again.
No. Right, a change of pace actually for today's guest. I spoke with Scott Shillum a few weeks back about the photography movement launched in 2017 with his best friend Steve Wallington. To quote the website, it's a not-for-profit organisation fostering a community spirit where individuals of all ages can discuss mental well-being through the medium of photography. This has been a subject, of course, very much at the fore, and we've certainly been talking more about it on this show. And I'd say myself, with my other podcast title, Photography Daily, not a week goes by where we don't feature a guest who has something of great importance to say about the subject of mental health and well-being. Breaking the silence around the sensitive subject of mental health, the movement also raises awareness and funds for charity partners. So the photography movement I'm particularly keen to introduce you to, but the story starts with tragedy. Scott, I know you launched the movement in 2017 with Steve Wallington after you lost somebody particularly close to you to suicide. My next door neighbour actually lost his son a month into lockdown, so it's a subject that's all the more real to me now. And though I think I knew the statistics, to be honest, Scott, but knowing somebody and having met someone who's taken their life makes something that was frankly uncomfortable to talk about, uncomfortably real. What was your experience at that time?
So I lost my identical twin brother and business partner, Dan, to suicide in February 2015. Both of us, during our adult life, have experienced episodes of depression, clinical depression, and both of us have had during that period probably 5 to 6 bouts of it over a 15 to 20 year period. We've both been at the point where I'd say on the scale of 1 to 10, there've been times when I've been a 1, and unfortunately, in 2015, Dan didn't manage to pull through from a particularly nasty episode.
These bouts, as you call them, because that's one of the things about mental health. You can see a broken leg. I know it's a cliche and it's often discussed, but you can see a broken leg, a broken limb, and maybe you can see to an extent a bout of flu, but you can't see a bout of depression or anxiety. And I wonder how they manifest themselves. I wonder if it's possible for you even to know that.
I think a lot of it's largely genetics. It's a predisposition to something, in the same way that a physical illness is not a break. Obviously, you fall out of a tree and break an arm. But I think a lot of cancers are genetic. Dan and I were part of the twin research program by a guy called Dr. Tim Spector at King's College in London. And we joined that about 10 years ago, mainly because they didn't have enough male cohort. It seems to be something that women are more willing to do. But identical twins have the same genetics, the same DNA.
Of course.
And so they can get a lot of data from it. And they actually have managed to find the gene for predisposition to breast cancer from having identical twins, with one having it, one without, and then matching the genes and seeing that there's a marker. They haven't managed to do that for mental ill health at the moment, but there are definitely sort of complexities there that they're trying to unravel. And I just feel that it's part of who we are. I obviously think that things like trauma, and there are other aspects to it, but definitely one of the elements of it is a predisposition to something, and it's just part of you.
Well, out of this trauma has grown something positive, which is the photography movement. Your association with Steve, first of all, how did you two meet? How did you decide?
So Steve and I were at college together.
Oh, right, okay.
And he's been one of my besties since the age of 15, and was also one of Dan's very dear friends as well.
Oh, so he knew you both. Good.
Yeah, so we both knew each other from that age. So I'm 54 this year, so a long time, 40 odd years we've known each other. And Steve went on to become a senior creative in ad agency land.
Yeah.
And after it happened, it was one of those scenarios where we were having a chat over a pint, and Steve said that he wanted to do something for CALM, the male suicide prevention charity, which I'd actually hadn't heard of before, but had sort of done some research and came across it. The idea from Steve was that to run a marathon. I said I'd run a half marathon before, and I'm not prepared to double that. I couldn't begin to imagine what it would be like to have turned around and gone back to the start.
I'm with you on that one. Yeah, I remember that, thinking some people do this twice.
Absolutely, and I'm not built for marathon running. But we both have a passion for photography. Steve actually is somebody that picks up the camera fairly regularly. I'm more of an iPhone guy, but I enjoy the process, and I have spent many, many years, obviously, as a picture editor, so I know my way around photography. And we also know a lot of people. We know a lot of photographers, and we made this decision there and then that we would try and do something around photography that could help, very specifically at the time, calm.
So, Scott, let's go back to the movement as such. The ethos of your movement, what is it?
Very, very simple. It's 3 words. It's photography, conversation, well-being. And the idea is it's a sort of a virtuous circle. So photography has got proven therapeutic benefits. It's about being in the moment. You don't accidentally take a photograph on your phone unless, of course, it goes off in your pocket. But the very fact that you are taking a photograph, and it doesn't matter what that photograph actually turns out to be, you have made a conscious decision to do that. And that is your photograph, and you've created it. And in that small moment of time when you were looking through the viewfinder or the camera lens, you have been thinking about that and that sort of process. Sometimes you might be thinking quite deeply about it. Sometimes it might just be a spontaneous capture of something that you've seen. That is quite a therapeutic thing to do. The other bit around the conversation is that the idea is that photography, and we all know a picture speaks 1,000 words, but the idea of a photograph is as a talking point, a discussion point, so that it sparks a conversation around it. And hopefully the conversation enables people to talk about their feelings, and that it's got this sort of this virtuous circle that leads to an element of well-being. Now, obviously, clearly that can't be for everything, but on balance, we feel that it's a positive. It's a positive thing.
And how do photographers become involved? I've spoken to a number of photographers who echo exactly what you said about that moment. There was a Canadian paramedic, for example, that I talked to recently. He was saying he didn't understand how it happened, but the moment he had the camera in his hand, the post-traumatic stress disorder that he was being treated for seemed to evaporate. And it wasn't what he called a miracle cure, but it certainly was an assistance in his life in a large respect. So how does it work with the organisation and photographers coming to you?
We have an Instagram page. We like Instagram. Social media in general, I think, has rightly so, has got a reputation for being quite toxic, especially amongst teenagers, and especially girls. I have 2 teenage daughters myself, and I can see the negative pull of it, but it does have some positivity to it. And we like Instagram because actually people that take photography largely are taking it for positive reasons, and we find that it's a positive place to be. So we have an Instagram page. We run some sort of online exhibitions. So we just ask people for submissions. We might have a topic area that we're talking around, but also trying to feature photographers who have a backstory and want to, through the creative process, talk positively about photography. So that a few people that we've connected with through the movement, who are very accomplished photographers, we've featured them on the feed. But we want to try and have something that's got lasting impact. And we are actually just about to launch a project, and we've only really found out in the last week that we're going to make this happen. But we have about to launch something called Show and Tell, and it's going to be a short series, 4 or 5 video workshops, which are going to talk about various aspects of photography, including the process of photography. It's going to actually culminate in people submitting imagery, which we will then post in a digital gallery space. It's mainly aimed at 11 to 16-year-olds. So it's the sort of the lockdown generation, I guess, that we want to try and sort of tap into.
Getty, they appear in large font on the website, and I'm pleased to see it. And it's great that they're supportive of this movement. How exactly are they involved?
So a dear friend of mine, Lee Martin, who I've known since his days at All Sport, who was our Getty's first acquisition, and the European newspaper, when I was picture editor, we used to get our sports imagery from All Sport. So I've known Lee going back to 1989. He's, over the years, risen through the ranks, become very, very senior at Getty. He's had an extremely high profile and high pressured role over all of those years. Yeah. He's had some struggles with anxiety, as I think most people do. It's one of those things where it's just so prevalent. People just don't realise how common these sort of stresses are in our everyday lives. But Lee, when I approached him to do the initial exhibition.
This was the one in 2017, wasn't it?
So this was the one in 2017.
Big one, yeah.
And we wanted to then get our photographer community, the people that we knew. We just had the brief was modern masculinity. Okay, what's it like to be a man in the modern world? And just kept it really, really top line. And that was the subject of the exhibition. And I approached Lee, and I knew that Getty had they don't have it anymore in East Castle Street, but they had the wonderful Getty Gallery.
So amazing space, wasn't it?
Amazing. And I said, look, is there any chance that we could potentially get it? We'd like to run something at Mental Health Awareness Week. And he was, leave it with me. And within a sort of week, he said, right, we got it for 2 weeks. Here's the dates in May. Yeah. That's it.
Over to you.
Like, wow. That's absolutely incredible. So this latest project, which also involves Rankin, and he has agreed to do one of the video workshops for us, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Rankin also provided us with an image for the Modern Masculinity exhibition as well. So it was great to get him involved in this new project. Yeah. We're very excited about it.
Yes, I bet.
But Getty are going to help us with the curation of what we're hoping to get from this new show and tell program. Is that part of the program of activity is that we're asking kids to submit some images. It's not a competition, but we're asking them to submit imagery, which is then we will then curate that into an online exhibition. With the PR machine behind Getty, obviously Rankin's got a good sort of PR resource.
Well, with his exposure, goodness.
Yeah.
Can I ask a gratuitous question? Because organisations and movements like this take an enormous amount of work. You know that.
Yes.
How do you fund it?
That is a very good question. And
it's supposed to be gratuitous rather than good.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, you can ask people for help and assistance, and a lot of people are very willing to give their time. But if you actually say to them, well, I need your time for the next 3 months, 2 days a week, then that becomes a much bigger ask, and actually something that it doesn't feel comfortable asking for that. The original Calm exhibition and everything that wrapped around it was actually sponsored by Unilever.
Yeah,
and in particular their Lynx deodorant, the male deodorant. You remember the adverts of the guy running down the beach, beating his chest, and all the girls sort of chasing after him. Well, I mean, that was then, this is now, right? Yeah. So they did a complete 180 on it and really sort of changed the narrative around it. And this particular one, we've managed to secure some funding from Cisco, which is amazing because they also have the platform behind them, and they want to, and we're currently just working out exactly what it's going to look like, but we want to sort of utilize the Cisco technology to get the sort of messaging out there, and we're just sort of working with them at the moment.
You sat for some striking portraits with Steve recently, your partner on this project, which are posted on the Photography Movement's About page from it's a potent campaign, I think, called Let's Talk. You had words painted on your face.
Yes.
And you were photographed for a portrait. And these words on your face relate to your more personal and difficult thoughts.
Yes.
I watched the video that accompanied that on Let's Talk's website. And there was some extraordinary people. I mean, everybody's extraordinary, I know, but in terms of familiarity, that were prepared to come forward and talk about it, weren't there?
Yeah, amazing. And Charlie Clift, it was just the most amazing idea. Simple. Really simple.
Oh, striking.
So striking. And, hats off to him. He had his struggles, had to drop out of university, did a sort of, a gap year, went back and finished his degree. But, he was suffering from clinical depression.
Yeah.
But has now become an extremely accomplished portrait photographer, does a lot of work for the Sunday Times, and had this amazing idea. And he found out through the ecosystem, the photography movement, had obviously seen my backstory. So asked if we would consider being subjects for it. And the Let's Talk campaign was really exactly what the photography movement is. Photography, conversation, well-being. That's it.
Yeah, it fitted perfectly, didn't it?
It really did. And Charlie then said, right, I'm going to interview you. I'm going to talk to you about you, and then that's going to form the basis of making the decision about what the words look like on your face, how we're going to do it, what the emphasis is. And we ended up talking on the phone for about an hour, and I was really amazed that the empathy that he had, and that he was able to sort of talk to me. I didn't know his backstory at the time. I really didn't know it.
Right.
It's only subsequently I found it out. And that's my bad, really, because I didn't really ask him. I didn't think to ask.
Well, maybe
him
you weren't perhaps expecting it, I should think. And that's the thing about mental health. People might talk to you about your mental health, and you sort of listen to their regard and don't necessarily feel that they may be suffering from the same in some way.
You absolutely don't. And I think when you sort of realise that, there's this silly number of 1 in 4 people suffer from poor mental health throughout their lifetime. I think it's 1 in 1, quite frankly. If you start talking about what levels they are, it doesn't really matter. It's nobody goes through life sailing through it having the most wonderful experience. It's just life is a roller coaster. Absolutely. And it will give you peaks and troughs, and there will be times when you are feeling very, very low, and it happens to everybody. But the process then for after the conversation was then working with this amazing lettering artist, Kate Forrester.
Yes, she is amazing.
And we went to Charlie's studio, and I was there for about 3 hours. So I didn't know until I arrived there what he had chosen and how it was going to look. But he said, you talk about being just flat. He said that you reference this a number of times in the conversation. Yeah. He said, so I want to emphasize the just flat. I want to sort of pull that out. And he said, and I want to do it almost like a scarf around your face.
That's exactly what it looked like. It was a mask, wasn't it? It was almost a muting of being able to say what you wanted to say publicly.
And he sort of, I said, wow. I said, well, yeah, okay, well, let's do it. And then sat there with Kate, and obviously Kate's painting my face for nearly 2 hours. And then Charlie would come over and he'd say, oh no, I'd like that to be a bit more. He was, really, really looking at this, and he could envisage exactly what he wanted to capture. Quite extraordinary, really. And of course, I didn't see it until Kate's finished with it, and I was like, whoa, that's powerful. Of course, I saw it in reverse in the mirrors. It wasn't until I actually saw the in-camera stuff that and with the lighting and everything that I was blown away. It's
extraordinary work, and I will put the links to that on the show notes. I guess you've talked a little bit about the future. Just in closing, really. You've talked about the ideas of the online exhibitions. As far as the organisation's concerned, the movement is concerned, there's still a lot of work to be done, isn't there?
A hell of a lot, and I wish that I could at the moment put a bit more time to it, but just the reality of life at the moment, trying to sort of run a business and keep that afloat and looking after my own mental health, you have to realise actually what your capacity is, your own capacity. I mean, it's great to help others and feel as though you're doing your bit, but I also have to know what my limitations are, what my capacity is. Could I down tools at 7 o'clock at night after doing a day of my work and then spend another 2 hours, let's say, on the photography movement? I could, but it actually wouldn't be very good for my mental health.
No.
So at the moment, it's trying to squeeze things in when I can, but knowing that if we can do a little bit and that resonates with people. I love seeing Instagram comments from people saying that, you know, this is great and it's helped me and you know, that's good. And I'd love it to be more. I'd love to be able to amplify that. I think we do have an opportunity. I think this new show and tell project will give it the kick that it needs, and maybe Cisco and or others might feel that they want to sort of sit behind something like this and other mental health initiatives, because it's going to be something that in the next year is going to be more important.
Our thanks to Scott Shillum from the photography movement for his time. If you'd like more information about the movement and to read and see what they've been doing, the best place is clearly the website, which is thephotographymovement.com, thephotographymovement.com. They also have an Instagram account, which is the_photography_movement. And whilst, of course, this is a British-based organisation, and being aware of the amount of listeners we're very proud to have on other continents, I thoroughly recommend a visit. For those who first heard a little of Scott's story on the Photography Daily podcast that airs Monday through Friday, with a special episode on Saturdays, there's a guest coming up on Thursday's edition called Ian Traherne, the self-titled blind photographer, a shooter who manages to produce the most incredible work, despite having 5% of the sight that most of us have. He has a thing or two, as you can imagine, to say about mental health. That's on Thursday's edition of Photography Daily. Right, let's get back to your questions. Oh, quick reminder, make sure you send these questions in. They are very much still the lifeblood of the show. Send them to click@fujicast.co.uk, click@fujicast.co.uk. Right, let's get back to the questions. Kev, yours.
Okay, this is from Sarah Jameson, and she says, one for Kev, really. Or maybe you added that note, I'm not sure.
Oh, I think yeah.
Anyway, it says, I completely get your worry about moving back to the office. We've got used to being in a new place, and for many of us that has been an office at home. At the start, it was really tricky with kids shouting and homeschooling playing havoc with being able to concentrate on anything for more than 10 minutes at a time. But now things have calmed and we've found a pattern. I always feel very guilty when you mention it all the time, those words, homeschooling.
Homeschooling.
Like, the words homeschooling and the new normal, yeah. I never want to hear them again.
Why do you have a problem with homeschooling?
Well, yeah, let's just say we're teaching by experiences. Anyway, what's your advice for photographers coming out of this?
Rosa does very good Welsh cakes, though.
She does very good Welsh cakes. And she can now ride a horse.
Yeah. While baking Welsh cakes, that's amazing.
What's your advice for photographers coming out of this time in terms of going back to the office? For many, this is going to be very mentally stressful.
Oh, I think it is.
All about Sarah. Yeah.
I mean, it's been very different for me because I work from home anyway, really. I mean, this is the studio and everything I have is at home. So it doesn't feel that different. I'm not sure that I suppose this is more to do about when I've got a wedding coming up next week, next Saturday, yeah.
What? A proper one?
Proper wedding.
What, with lots of people?
Yeah, I'm not just turning up to a field where nobody's there.
Well, how are they doing it, though?
Well, they're going to get married.
Yeah, but
do we need to teach her what happens with?
No, but how are they?
Then the stalk comes, Kev.
But they're only allowed 30 people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This isn't a large wedding. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
So we're going to a church. Yeah. So I've had the latest set of rules are, and they've changed a little bit as it's gone along.
Yeah.
The latest set of rules are that they're all going to a church. So I'm allowed to go to the church, obviously, but I'm not allowed to take images. Not allowed to make images, or I'm allowed to get pictures of them coming in, and I'm allowed to get pictures of them going out. I'm not allowed to get anything between. Apparently I have to evacuate the building.
So you have to go outside.
Yeah. I don't know why I have to evacuate the building. I've always said everybody's welcome in the house of the Lord except the photographer, and now it's been underlined.
How will you know when they're coming out?
Well, I imagine there'll be some organ music.
No, the music's not allowed.
Well, I know they're not allowed to sing, but they'll be allowed to have a recessional, won't they?
No music's allowed.
No recessional?
They're not going to have an organist taking up one of their sacred 30 spots.
Oh, that's a good point.
You're going to be stuck out, so they're going to just come bumbling out the door.
Well, look, I used to be able to play the piano. I mean, maybe I could say, look,
maybe
I'll do the organ and I'll do the photos. I'll do the collection. I'll be the verger. There we go. You got 4 in 1 there. I don't know. No, I'd not thought about that. So there's no music at all for that bit.
I don't think so.
Okay. Right.
And what are they doing afterwards?
Well, then, now, originally we were supposed to be going on to... they were supposed to have their wedding in March. So their wedding happened, or would have happened, precisely 1 week into what became lockdown for us. So it was the end of March, wasn't it? 20th, what was it, 23rd, 21st?
13th, wasn't it?
Was it?
13th, 14th?
Yeah. Anyway, whenever that was. And they were supposed to be going to a really, really lovely venue, but that's not happening because the lovely venue can't operate at the moment.
No.
So we're going to, which is ironically, of course, the pub next to the lovely venue does work.
Of course, that's what I said.
But anyway, moving on swiftly. Then we're going back to a parent's home. Well, I assume has a reasonable amount of space to host a reception. Now, I don't know how many people are going to that reception.
Do you want to borrow my mask?
I'm turning up in a hazmat suit, me. Here comes the photographer.
Look, you are my son.
I tell you what, though, it is very interesting. I know we need to get back to Sarah's question at some point.
No, but it's loosely around that, isn't it? Because that's my place of work, I suppose, really. I mean, this is where I produce stuff after I've worked.
I'm going to be really intrigued to see what they do at that house.
Yeah, are you?
And obviously,
I'm going to stay very safe.
But if they have, let's just say they invite 8, they might have a marquee, 80 people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because legally, you see, they shouldn't do that.
No.
They can still only have I think 6 people from 2 different families, isn't it?
Right.
So technically...
Now, of course, this is going out in a week's time from recording. Things could have changed a bit.
Things could have changed, but this is what I don't understand. I'm with the clients entirely. They want to get married, and they rightly should. And I think the rules on the marriages at the moment are just draconian. I just don't think Boris wants to marry his girlfriend. I think that's why he's doing this. Honestly, he's like putting as much
hold on a
barriers.
Warning.
Here comes the politicized Kev.
He's putting as much barriers in the way as possible.
Yes.
Anyway.
No or yes. Yes. No. Yes.
No. Yes.
No.
But so technically, they if they have 30 people at the church, they technically can't have that many people at their house. Because they can only have 6 from 2 different families, so they can only have 12. So 15 of those people are going to have to not go. So anyway, that's my
all right.
my question on it.
Wow. Well, I don't know the answer to that yet.
Of course, they might just ignore the rules.
No, these clients are absolutely A1 perfect people.
Okay.
Obviously, all my clients are.
Absolutely.
But you're right. It's going to be But I returned to work.
Is it the same coverage and price and everything?
Yeah. It was already paid.
Wow.
So I'm honouring something that was already paid for. Now their wedding has changed size, shape. I mean, the dimension of this entire event has changed.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for them being so generously,
Of course, yeah. Actually, they will have
happy to allow me to work within that original fee structure for a much reduced event.
Yeah, so, I mean, of course, they will have actually recovered a lot of money by not having such a big event anyway. But anyway, good. Well done you and them and their future kids and
don't know yet,
grandkids.
But how do I feel about it? I feel a bit nervous.
Yeah, so going back to the question, I agree. I would be a little bit nervous too, especially with all the unknowns. Yeah. See, this is why I'm asking you. I would be.
Where does it end though? Because have you got a wedding coming up?
No, I've literally
this year.
I've technically got one in September.
Right.
Still,
what would happen if you
one in October?
How do you feel about that? If they say we're doing it, Kev, we're doing it.
No. I would feel fine. The only thing that I would be conscious of for you, if I was in your shoes, I would have found out what was happening at the house. How many people?
I have asked, and I think it sounds like it's it's that number, but no more.
Right. Yeah, that's the only thing. That's what I wouldn't want to be going to a wedding.
Well, where there's suddenly 190 people. No, no. I don't think it's that.
Yeah. No, other than that, I mean, I'm happy to do anything by the guidelines.
Now, I do have a wedding that's still on in September that I've got to fly to. And that one's in France. Now, they are in what's called a green area, or green zone, I think they're calling it. And everything they've organised, which is around about 60 guests, is legally fine. Now, but of course...
I'd drive.
Would you?
Yeah.
It's a long way. It's the south of France.
It's fine. Go on a boat or drive
Really?
drive through the tunnel. Yeah, I would.
Don't want to be on a ferry.
Make a week of it.
That's where all this stuff...
Oh, yeah, not a ferry. I meant under the river.
Under the river?
On the train. In the little tin can that goes under the sea.
Yeah, I suppose you're in the car on your own, aren't you?
Yeah.
I do love that journey, but it's a long way the other way. I've still got to go to a wedding. I've still got to stay in a hotel because I'm still doing a 3-day service for them.
True. I got one of my ones.
So where does it end?
I've got a wedding in Bucharest Cathedral in October.
There we go.
And it's not going to happen though because he emailed me. And he was like, yeah, it's because Romania's not on the list of 75 countries we can go to. Might change, of course, but right now it's not.
No.
And all of the groom's family have to come from America.
Oh.
So
let's rather put the cat amongst the pigeons among the cats.
Yeah.
Pigeons.
I had some stupidly beautiful weddings this year. All have gone to the great COVID grave wedding.
Say this one does go ahead though. Say some rules change. How would you feel about it? Because that's what the question is about.
I would feel fine as long as I actually trust. Whilst I think that the messages they've given have been somewhat confusing, I do believe that the government's rules are done for the best practice, the best reasons. So if they said it's safe to go on a plane. And these are the kind of things you need to take into account. Then I'll do it. I wouldn't really have too much of a problem with that. I have to say though, I don't think that places like Romania and stuff like that are likely to be on the list anytime soon. Sadly.
And what about moving back into an office then?
Yeah, I'm going to miss sitting at my window. I have to say, I am
wistfully looking out.
The thing is, you have to be really careful how you word these things, because whilst it's been financially very detrimental, actually the lockdown itself for us personally, now I know that people have gotten well. I know 2 people who've sadly passed away from the bloody thing, but actually as a family unit we've done okay with it. We've enjoyed the time together, we've learned things about each other, the kids have got on well.
It hasn't been all roses though, has it?
Hasn't been at all roses. No, of course there's been little hiccups, but actually, by and large, I'm very, very grateful for the time we've had together. If somebody said to you, "Look, I'm going to give you 6 months just with your family,"
I wouldn't have believed it.
Yeah, exactly, and and
I don't know how I would have thought I would have ever coped. Now I know we've had to take loans and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that aside, but the actual there are benefits to it, I think. And that's why I say I'm being cautious about what I say, because I know people have been affected by it.
Grand reset.
Very horrible ways.
Yes. And
of course, we would all rather it just never happened.
God, yes.
But, we still, those 6 months with the family, they've been great, I think. I'll be now asking, when you when you're going to go back to work, Dad?
Albie's the same age as Thomas, isn't he? And Thomas is nervous about going back.
Albie's very nervous. Yeah. Albie's nervous about going out the door, I have to say.
He had a little bit of we think about ourselves going back to work, but the kids having to go back to I know you don't like this phrase, their new normal. And Thomas is having a bit of an issue with it, to be honest. I mean, we mentioned it the other day and he saw his little bottom lip quivering.
Yeah. Albie's the same. We should get them together, actually. Yeah. I nearly brought him today.
Did you?
Yeah, because
that'd be funny. He could have done a bit of Xbox.
Yeah, well, I know, but then I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about the rules and regs and families and bubbles. He's allowed to come and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he can do that.
Because Rosa and Gemma go off at 7 o'clock every morning to ride Casper and do all Caspery things. And so
did you buy this horse?
No, it's being rented.
Right.
Yeah, and it's being rented by a very kind grandparent.
Funny expression, rented.
Yeah, What? You can rent a ghost. You ever see that? Rent a ghost? There was a
remember
horse in that, pantomime horse. So well, next time I'm going to bring him because I don't really like him going to the stables because he just stands there, like the horses. And then I thought, actually, and they can sit and worry together.
Well, actually, when we finish this little railway thing, he could come and go on the railway, couldn't he?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is one from before we do this week's book. Tommy, we had part 1 last week. We're getting good at so it's almost like box set questions these days. Do you remember Tommy Two-Tone?
Tommy Two-Tone.
Tommy Two-Tone.
That's definitely my favourite name. Tommy Two-Tone.
I've been thinking a lot about the topic of cell phone cameras, which has been discussed as stiff competition for proper cameras, in inverted commas. Indeed, Olympus is shutting down in large part due to the competition from camera phone technology. Although the lenses and tech continue to improve in cell phones, I believe taking photos with an actual camera will continue well into the future because one won't be distracted mid-photography by the various alerts from a phone call, calendar event, message, reminder and so on. Holding a purpose-built piece of tech will, with the phone silenced and out of the way, well, one can become immersed in the task at hand, which at its root is really the practice of observation, in brackets without distraction. Couldn't agree more there, Tommy. Mm-hmm. The camera phone, he says, is here to stay and I use mine often, but for elevated photos, one needs an elevated experience free from distraction. I'm thus hopeful for the future of the camera industry. Your thoughts, please. Sounds like a question from school, this. Discuss.
Yes, discuss.
The principle of buoyancy. Discuss.
Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree, actually. As I was reading this, I think, wholeheartedly I agree. Although, I agree. I'm a photographer. I like this idea of observation without distraction. Of course, that makes sense. But I can't help feeling that the vast majority of people probably don't feel that way and are quite happy for an occasional bing in the middle of taking a photograph to get a text from Aunt Jessie.
Yeah. Do you know, it's interesting. I feel that all of the adverts that are on television about mobile phones, right, for the last 3 or 4 years, this has been the case. They never, ever, right, let's just say new iPhone comes out.
Yeah.
Never in the advert on the TV do they talk about the phone, their capabilities of it as a phone.
It's all about pictures.
It's all about pictures.
Yep.
All about pictures. And there was one that was released during lockdown, and I can't remember whether it was a Samsung or something. It was a lovely advert. I thought it was really well produced. And it had a little catchy like jingle and everything, but it was all about being how far you could zoom into these pictures. And they had like the picture of there was a little boy jumping off a diving board or something.
Oh, I know the advert. Yeah,
and then he zoomed right in on it.
Very, very good. Yeah, strong.
It was a strong advert, but it's so good neither of us can remember what the name was. However,
I remember the advert, but not the product.
But the point is, there's nothing on these adverts about phone. They don't even mention 5G on these adverts, even though the newer phones are now 5G compatible. I don't
think I've ever heard one mention that.
No, they don't, because it's a given. That's the given. The given is it makes phone calls.
Yeah.
The given is it's got GPS built into it. It's got the internet on it. Your app's going to
be fine, and blah.
It's all about the camera and filmmaking.
Yeah.
That's absolutely where it's going.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's a big issue, I have to say. Issue is not the right word, but I think it's a thing. Put it that way. I think that people will always want photography and bigger pictures and all that kind of stuff and prints and yes, nobody wants to be interrupted when they're photographing with their phone.
Goodness gracious! I know. So Gemma's going to be. I'm sorry, Gemma. I do apologise.
But I see a blending. You see, I think given a few more generations of cameras, I think cameras from the traditional manufacturers, Sony, Canon, Fujifilm, etc., will support much more phone-like technology. And I think the phones will support much more camera-like technology. And I don't mean that you'll be holding a GFX to your ear and calling each other, but I think connectivity-wise and the internet and streaming and all that kind of stuff, I think will, this is my prediction, writing it down.
Well, we didn't we have that suggestion a good few episodes ago that, having text would be quite handy because during some photo shoots where things perhaps are not quite so interesting, you can be looking through the viewfinder pretending to work and you're reading your texts.
Yeah.
I can think of a few wedding speeches where that would have been handy. Right, book review. What have we got this week?
All right, so this time we have lovely. Do you know the publisher Phaidon?
I do.
How do you pronounce it?
Yes, it is Phaidon, I think, isn't it?
Phaidon, I say. Phaidon. Phaidon.
Silent letters. I know how much you love them.
I hate silent letters. What's the point? Absolutely no point. It takes up paper space and time and effort and absolutely pointless things.
Says the Welshman.
Yeah, but there's no silent letters in Wales. It's all
everything
one. Makes you spit and swear.
Yes, it's a wonderful language.
Anyway, so this is a Phaidon book, and it's called Magnum Football. Boom, there you go. On the inside cover, my one says asterisk US edition Magnum Soccer.
Oh, right, okay.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So they've kind of asterisked it and said in the US edition Magnum Soccer. Because soccer to our American friends is football to us. Anyway, this is actually a small footprint book, but quite a lot of pages, all about football in various genres, times and kind of spheres of.
Is it international?
No, so they're all by Magnum photographers.
Yeah, but right? in international.
No.
Oh.
So, for example, we have on page 126 Martin Frank, photographer,
right.
Newcastle upon Tyne, England, 1977. Little boys playing football down the back of a street.
Proper backstreet sort of.
Proper backstreet football.
Real grassroots one without the grass.
So this book is broken up into this. Honestly, this book does not just appeal to people who like football or soccer.
Now, you're not a massive football soccer fan, are you?
I like it, but no, it's not.
You're really a rugby man.
I'm a rugby person. Yeah. So the book is broken down into several parts: the team, the place, the supporters, the past, the beautiful game, the goal, the passion. And my favourite sections are the supporters and the passion. So I'm going to go to page 73 where the supporter stuff starts, and I'm already in that area, and it's amazing. You've got all of that from all around the world, from all cultures. Do you
know what? I've just seen one. You've gone past one there. There's a black and white. Just go over there. I know it wasn't the heads. Is it the heads in the hand? It's upside down.
Yeah, it's the heads and hands.
See, that for me is the archetypal picture at the end of a season where you've done everything. It all rested on the last match of the season, and a goal went as an equaliser right at the death, which means you got relegated. And there's always 2 or 3 supporters left in the stadium. Everybody else has gone home, and they're like, my life is finished.
This is Chris Steele-Perkins' photograph. Once again, Newcastle. Sorry, Newcastle. 1996, Newcastle United supporters following a 1-1 draw with Tottenham Hotspur in the final game of the season.
Oh, here we go.
Newcastle were beaten to the Premiership League title by Man United, having led for much of the year.
Yes, I know, yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't like being relegated, but it must have felt like it for them.
But then, look, if you flip 3 pages forward, this is a photo by John Vink. Remember, they're all Magnum photographers.
Yes.
David Hearn, Ninian Park. There we go. Now I've stood there many times. Cardiff, Wales, 1977. A father and son watch Cardiff City lose 3-1 to Chelsea. The best thing about that picture is the son is stood on the little stool that the dad has brought with him. So
fantastic! See. Yeah.
I love it. I really love this.
I do remember. I mean, when football stadiums were, you could stand up on the terraces, and that's where I remember going to Highbury to watch Arsenal play, and just it. I think I can't have been 10, 11 maybe, and it was one of those experiences. I think the first time you ever go to your first adult football match.
Yeah.
And the crowd is surging forward and coming back. That sort of.
It really is a
atmosphere.
Fantastic book.
Oh, right, okay. There's 2 very opposing different pages.
Yeah, there's 2
again
diametrically different for sure.
Yes.
So should you get this book, page 170, Bruno Barbie, Parc des Princes, Paris.
Yeah. Parc des
Princes, Paris, France, been there many times. 1998, Jamaica supporter at the Argentina v Jamaica World Cup match. Jamaica lost 5-0. You need to see that picture too. Yes. It's Jamaican ladies being very Jamaican, enjoying themselves, and right opposite,
Newcastle boys being very Newcastle.
Chris Steele-Perkins, Newcastle upon Tyne, England, 1996. Newcastle United fans watch their team draw 1-1 with Tottenham Hotspur. Same game.
Yeah.
That man there is holding up fingers that are adding up to the total score. Let's just say that. Anyway, I think it's a wonderful book, and I will link to it, of course. If you love football, you'll love this book, but if you love photography, you'll also love this book. I hope it's still available. It's not. There's a price sticker on the back, £9.95, but I've had this for quite a long time. So
that's a glorious book. Magnum Football.
Magnum Football.
Yeah, right. Just time for this is the very last disaster story. We're going to have to come up with a new feature, Kev. G'day from Down Under, Kevin and Neil. Please don't say that with an Australian accent. Oh, sorry. Good day from Down Under, Kevin and Neil. If Kevin is reading this, which he isn't, you say my name, the surname is like Sealing, but with an ends instead of an ing. For Nanto, just think of NATO, but with an extra N. Nanto Sealants. Did I say that correctly then?
Well, we had one from Nanto last week.
We did, yeah.
Yes.
And we probably said it wrong then, didn't we? Tell me you didn't do something Australian, which you shouldn't have done.
I didn't do it Australian. No.
Oh, God.
We get in so much trouble for names.
My disaster story is equipment related. I was given a relatively new Nikon D7-100, and after only having had it for a few days, I decided to try tethering it to the MacBook Pro via USB to transfer some images off. Normally, I'd have taken my SD card out and plugged that into my laptop directly, but it was a new toy. My mistake was just grabbing an old USB cable I had lying around. At the moment I plugged it into my MacBook, the MacBook died and the camera started behaving weirdly. A short in the cable ended up destroying the MacBook Pro. Oh my God! I was able to pull out the hard drive and rescue the files and caused a permanent glitch though in my Nikon that always left it thinking that it was tethered via USB, the result of which meant that all the menu options were greyed out. That's handy. God. Brilliant. I made a temporary USB dongle that would trick the camera into thinking it was no longer tethered and enabled all the menus, but eventually I had to suck it up and get a brand new mainboard fitted to the camera. An incredibly costly experience when you consider that the USB cable cost me just $5. Oh dear. Anyway, I did end up getting a new MacBook Pro out of it, and to this day my wife thinks I did it deliberately to get a brand new computer. I'm sure you didn't, but thank you, Nato, for that, and thank you for all the disaster stories that you've been sending in over the last few months. Well, right, that's it. We'll have to think of something else to... I'm going to put you in the... Need to think of something else to do next week pile, which is a new feature pile, which is just there. Right, that's it for this week. Oh, before we go, Kev, you've got something important we must talk about.
Yeah, so we put something on the Facebook group already, so some of you have seen this. There's a competition that's being run by the Heart of Valve UK charity. And it's quite interesting, actually. They are looking for photographers to do some kind of documentary stuff. It's a competition, but the winners will get to go to the House of Parliament and various things like that. It's quite a big prize. So we will put the links on the show notes for today, and good luck with that.
Do you get to go to the Houses of Parliament when they're actually sitting, or will this be when they're in recess?
I have no idea. Nothing to do with me. However, I have been to the House of Parliament.
Do you know, I've always wanted to go. Have you been when they've been spouting forth?
No. We went on a private tour.
Get you.
And we went to the pub underneath in the basement.
Oh, you've mentioned this because they have their own pub, don't they?
Yeah. Have you ever been to Australia before?
No. I have been to the House of Parliament. Oh, this seems to be the wrong way round. I've always wanted to go. I couldn't go when the public gallery is open, though, because I'm too afraid I might shout something down.
Yeah. No.
And I'd get in a lot of trouble.
It would. I think it would be a little bit like being in a zoo.
Order! Anyway, thank you for joining us this week. If you've liked this or any of the week's shows, make sure, please, you leave a lovely... No, we're not allowed to say that. You leave a review. Whether it's lovely or not, that entirely is up to you, of course, in the Apple Podcasts app. If you can share the episode on Twitter or on Facebook, you are a star. And let us know where you're sharing, because we'd like to give those platforms a shout too. See you in the Facebook group for any questions you have about today's show. Play nice, of course. Our mods, Steve and Pete, are in there too with their shiny FIFA referee whistles at standby now that they're allowed back into stadiums now to be refs, aren't they? Football's back on again.
Did you see because the mighty Arsenal, who both you and I support, are in the FA Cup final?
I know, I couldn't believe it.
And there's the referee. Normally, they only have a referee only refs the FA Cup final once in his life.
That's right.
Always been the way.
Yeah.
But this time, because no family are allowed to go, they've picked a referee that's done it once before, because they didn't want, whoever they did pick, they didn't want the new referee to not have his family there and the honour of it. So they've picked they've picked a fellow what did it before.
Well, how thoughtful.
Yeah.
Do you know there's some irony about the FA Cup? Of course, wouldn't ever happen in August, would it? It would always be in May.
No.
And so I haven't had a wedding all year long. really. Well, I did. A couple one in January, one in Feb. And Arsenal get through to the FA Cup final.
It's the day you're at
It's the only day this year I've got a wedding.
Yeah.
My eyes went to the ceiling. It was COVID irony. Anyway, that's it. Music from Blue Wednesday, supporting music from the incredibleartlist.io, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Fujicast is an independent Loading Zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.